everybody. Welcome back to the Mount Tammany Ridge channel. So, out here in the, I don't know if you can see that, freezing cold garage, and I'm kind of having to redo my order of this process, I guess I could say. Getting a little bit ahead of myself on the last video. You guys, I'm sure, noticed what I was getting at, and so I don't think it's the end of these brackets. I just need to make some modifications to them, but to be comfortable with the modifications that I'm thinking of making, I need to kind of switch gears a little bit here, and I need to switch over to making the pusher plate base at least. I don't necessarily need to put the pusher plate on, I think. Could be speaking, could be kind of inaccurate on that assessment too, but as time goes on, I'm going to slow my roll a little bit here and make sure I'm thinking through. Really, I probably should have made the pusher plate base and or maybe even just the whole pusher plate all together prior to making these brackets, simply because of clearance issues that may come up. Again, like I said, I'm kind of working, in limited time, a little bit after work, and whatever little bit of time I have left on any days that I might technically on the calendar have scheduled as what they might call a day off, which I know a lot of you guys, you don't know what a day off is either. We're always doing something. So trying to fit in a project like this, for as fun as it might be, it can be kind of another thing added to the puzzle. So so right now I need to take this plate off. I had to pick this sucker up and get it back up on here. I want to be sure that I have enough pusher plate base to have a smooth push and retract, trying to avoid chatter or binding. So I got to make sure that the pusher plate is long enough, and I'm also trying to find out where roughly on this pusher plate I'm going to be mounting the cup to intercept the end of the ram here, because that also, with how much the weight of the pusher plate actually weighs, with the bracing, things like that, all that stuff has to be accounted for with balancing, so you don't get a chatter. I could try my hardest to make that not happen, and because this is my first time doing this, it might happen anyway, and I might have to redo some things regardless. But anywho, so I'm going to get to cutting. I'm going to try to get some nice clean edges. I'm going to get this cut to size, and we're going to start figuring out how we can put some, I guess you could call them hands or retainers for the bottom, and then obviously there's going to be a spacer in between. I'm only working with an inch, really, an inch and a 1/16 on each side. I really don't have a lot of room. My steel supplier guy, the local guy, he's a small business. And I think I could probably custom order something bigger, but for him, whatever he had there in his drops pile, I think it was 9 inches was the best I could do, pretty sure. Yeah, so 9 inches was all he had for me there. I could just flip it the other way around and get my 10 inches plus to make it, so it has a better purchase on the beam. It's still going to have a good purchase on the beam, except the spacer here is going to be a bit daintier, which again, it's a spacer and sort of a wear item. So putting a 1/2 inch hole through here is really going to, how can I say, expedite any possible wear on these wear items in between these shims or spacers, you might want to call them. So that's something that is probably going to bite me in the tail end, but for right now, it's what I got to work with. So we're just going to move forward with this, and if anything, it's gonna at least give me a good idea, a way for me to, I gotta find a way to extend this ram without making a tremendous mess, so I can get my measurements on the plate for where this is gonna stop, and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna stop rambling here. I'm gonna get to cutting this thing at a perfect 90, and we'll take it from there. So that's going to be a little bit tighter than I want it to be for sure. As far as where I have that line, I'm going to have to come in this way toward the H-beam a little bit further. I was hoping to really kind of, so to clarify, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be having triangulated reinforcement webs, okay, for the pusher block, okay, or a plate for that matter, and I'm going to put them on the outside of here, okay. That's to give me the allowance to still get, I want to get bolts close to the back of the pusher plate, and you know, every however many inches I decide on, all the way to the back. And I want there to be one as close to the front where the pusher plate is as possible, because I want to prevent if I end up having a log round that's got like a weird angle to it and it's pushing up high because I'm not thinking instead of putting it down low, I don't want any force at the top of the plate causing a peeling back action, because this is going to want to spread apart. It's going to want to peel and fail here. I want to have as much strength up here as I can. If I put a bolt further back here to accommodate hardware of some sort, if I put it back here, this fail point is going to be, it's going to fail a lot easier. And I'm not really worried about the web failing or the pusher plate failing. I'm worried about the retainer on the bottom failing. I don't want that to peel off and bust bolts, because, well, that's not very productive. So having one up here right behind the pusher plate, to me, it's not going to be convenient for, you know, replacing the retainers and spacers, because it's just going to be tight in there. But that's why this line being here, or for my drill markings, is too close to this side, because that web, that triangulated support web, is going to be right up tight against the hex head on the bolt. I don't want that. It's okay to be tight, but I don't want it to be impossible to get maybe a socket over. So I need to make sure that I move this in toward the H-beam just a little bit more. Give me some, at least a fighting chance. If I can get a crescent wrench in there, I'm happy. All right, so around 5/8 thick, as far as the tape measure is concerned, that's 5/8. And I want to be off of that a little bit, right? So, because realistically, all right, I would like to weld the plate, the pusher plate on the top. The front is okay too. I still might go that route, but on the top, if I weld on the top, I have to make basically an allowance for the bead, right? So when I'm welding and I'm welding a bead along the back, okay, where the head of this bolt is going to come down, I need to make sure that, you know, I give myself, you know, maybe, you know, 3/8 of an inch of room. I mean, I can always get in there before I put these webs on the side. I can always get in there and, you know, knock the high spots of the weld down if it seems to be encroaching on where the head of the bolt would be. And it would be smart to, you know, drop a bolt down in both those holes to be sure. And that's likely what I will do before I put these webs on the side. Otherwise, it'll be really hard to get a cylindrical grinder wheel to whatever areas it is you might have to address. So yeah, I'm gonna need to make sure that this first hole on both sides is far enough back to where it's not gonna interfere, or the bead, I should say, is not going to interfere with the head of this bolt making a flat contact area. So, all right. Oh, where'd my mark go? There it is. Nope. Is that it? Pretty sure that's it. There. All right, so 1.5 inches. So that's convenient. That's convenient mark. I'll even move it a little closer because 1.5 inches is beautiful. Okay. So at least mathematically, even though it's a whole number, it's a 0.5, and that just makes things easier. I'm not a mathematician of any sort. I'm not an engineer. I'm not any of that. And I'm sure you've probably already come to that conclusion. I've just got an idea and a desire to create something. All right, so I'm gonna get these 2 holes drilled. And then I'm gonna try to get an ideal spacing. Whatever that number comes to in my head, I'm gonna try to get some sort of spacing to commit to. All right, well, that was so convenient. I don't know how long the camera wasn't recording for, but I know for a fact it was recording. Seems to be a new thing these days. So I got my 2 starter holes drilled in. I gotta try to work around the schmutz, using some of this oil here for cutting oil. And I just want to make sure my permanent marker marks don't really go anywhere yet. I'm not done with them. So yeah, the diameter bolt I'm using, this is going to be the length. It's not going to be long enough, but I chose this diameter now. Fits in there really good. We'll have to see. Precision drilling is not going to be a thing here on the Mount Tammany Ridge. So for as much as I'd like to believe that I can get these holes perfect, it's probably not going to be a thing. So anyway, yeah, gonna get the rest of these holes drilled, I think, and then we're going to see what we can do to transfer marks to what's going to be the spacers. Still have a lot of work yet to do to get these spacers cut out, because I got to cut them out of the 3/8 plate. And then I'm going to use some of this, I'm going to use, I've got some of this strapping here. Try to use my thumbnail as an idea of the thickness. So I'm going to use that for an additional spacer, because 3/8 in between the two 1/2-inch pieces. I'm going to use 3/8 for the retainer on the bottom. I'm also going to use 3/8 as a spacer, and I think I'm going to need this as an additional spacer to get enough clearance to have that sled move forward and backwards smoothly. So enough yapping. Considering you guys can see it pretty well, you're going to notice, obviously, that the holes are not perfectly lined up this way or that way. Mostly because of the fact that when I use the this what do you call it, where'd it go? This punch here. It really all depends on, if you're right on the money. The lighting in here is awful. So I did the best I could to get dead center each of those cross marks that I made. I think I did pretty good considering. And then of course the other thing that is a reason I think that these may have wandered left or right was because of the way the bit was nesting into the hole that I punched. When you punch the metal with one of these, it doesn't really make a perfect, how can I say, blasting site, right? So where this pin, pushes material in a cone fashion away, it doesn't always push the same amount of materials cylindrically, evenly in a cylindrical outward blast zone. So, it'll be heavier on this side than that side. So the initial hit with the bit, I can even see when I'm pulling down on the drill press, you can see the bit kind of deflect a little bit, right? Some of the holes were really, really good. They were almost perfectly center. I'd get the bit to nest in there real nice and straight, and there wouldn't be any deflection. But some of them, there was definitely deflection. Now, I mean, I could have kind of dealt with that a little better, honestly. If I really, really wanted to, I could have taken the sanding wheel on the grinder, or even just a rasp or a file, and just kind of knock down the high side away from the hole. You know what I mean? Away from the blast site. That way, you know, it might help it nest itself a little bit more center. But again, like I said, I just kind of went with it. I did not have a chamfer bit to clean these holes up, so I just kind of used I think it was like a 1 1/8 inch bit, and I just used that to kind of soften the edges here. They're not pretty, you know. You could see that there's chatter marks in them, but they're all going to be covered by bolts, so I'm really not concerned about that. Now, I was talking before about having triangulated web here, a brace on the outside. Now, my hope is to actually have, let me see if I can, maybe I can use this piece of cardboard. So what I'd like to do is I'm gonna try to make this a V-joint, okay? I don't wanna come all the way down here. I mean, I could, if I really grind the inside of the plate where that web is, if I really heavily grind the inside, I can make like a, not really an open root, but a closed root, I guess you might call it, where I could really lay a heavy bead on the bottom side, grind off the weld flush, just to get an initial weld. And then my plan here, regardless of how I actually do this side, I'm gonna be doing stitch welds in here, right? So in here I'll have a stitch weld in between the nut, the bolt heads, and then I'll have a stitch weld here and a stitch weld here. And then that's why I really wanna make like a V joint or a T joint or whatever you wanna call it, here. That way, along this whole thing, I can get a real good strong bead, okay, all the way throughout that whole web. And then I can, like I said, add the stitch welds in here. And then up the back side of the plate, I'll have a nice strong weld on there as well. So, and these webs are not going to be the only thing holding the push plate, right? So the the piece of the push plate that's going to nest itself around the ram here is going to be in the middle, and that is also going to be welded in very, very securely into the back of the push plate. And I'm going to be using 1-inch material for this web here. So there's going to be plenty of brawn here to hold this all together and be safe. Again, I really do wish I could get a better purchase around the bottom of the beam, or I should say the purchase around the bottom of the beam I determined is going to be fine. There's going to be more than enough. The actual shim, I wish the space between the outside, the inside diameter of the whole board through the shim, I wish that space toward the H-beam was going to be thicker for more longevity of a longer wear time. We'll have to see. Everything's going to be mild steel. It might last for years and years. I don't know. All I do know is I want to make sure that I can duplicate those parts, right? And replace them when it comes time. So enough yammering on that. All right, everybody. I've probably put, I don't know, probably 2 hours. If you took out all the extra camera moving and looking around for things that I shouldn't be looking around for. I'd say it's probably a solid 2 hours invested in knocking this all out and getting to the point where it is now. So I'm actually really happy, really happy with the results. It's been so long since I've had a drill press functional here. That really just, it's a game changer for me. Yeah, so that's as far as we're gonna get today. I'm going to probably be goofing around this tomorrow night, and I'll bring you guys along for that. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the pieces cut out for these shims, and maybe even the retainers for the bottom. I hope. We'll have to see. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get all the holes drilled. This is going to be interesting, trying to get all these holes to match up. The only thing I can think of is cut the spacers bigger than I need them to be, so that I have some forgiveness for these holes. And then once I have these holes drilled for the spacer and the retainer, I can then bolt them together tight, and then maybe run the cutoff wheel along here and clean it up, make it so it's all one smooth edge. And I want to try to do a nice job. I don't want to look like a hack, but you know, when you guys do see this machine up and running, I want it to look nice, but I can't say with 100% confidence that you're not going to be able to tell that it was built at home. We'll have to see. I'm going to try my best to make it look like it rolled off a sales floor somewhere, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be good enough to do that, but we're going to try. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Catch up with you in the evening.
Well, I don't know how, but the spacer's working out great. And I'm not exactly upset. Oh, I apologize if I was yelling. Didn't mean to come across as being upset. Yeah, so it's looking pretty good. I'm really happy with that. Turns out, might not actually have to use an additional spacer shim for this after all, which is great, because that's one less thing I got to drill a hole through. So this is going to be it for tonight, folks. I will meet back up with you tomorrow evening, and we are going to get a center line on these shims and also determine where that line needs to be on these keepers, or whatever you might want to call them. I guess I could call them keepers. And we're gonna get, I'm hoping, all the holes drilled for both the spacers and these. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm happy. So yeah, aside from the fact that I got to use a cutoff wheel to get all these cuts, it's you go through a lot of abrasives doing this type of work. And it's dusty and gross, and there's a lot of things about building this equipment, and other equipment made of heavy steel and stuff like that. That's not really, how could I say, very. The idea of being able to build your own piece of equipment from beginning to end, has a voice activated torpedo heater. Okay, now that I was rudely interrupted by my voice activated torpedo heater, back to what I was saying. Being able to build something like this from beginning to end for a guy is a tremendous sense of accomplishment. But when you really have to get into the nitty gritty of, doing this every single day, all day for a living, there's a lot to be said as to why somebody might not go through what I'm going through to build one, even if they have the ability. Typically people who have the abilities to do so have already been, up to their neck in a project like this, and all the things that are not necessarily attractive to a process like this, like the dust and the fumes, and everything is heavy, everything is sharp, all that stuff. There's a legitimate reason why people pay the amount of money that they pay for a commercial splitter, or every entry-level commercial splitter. It's a lot of work, and it's not always great and fun. I do enjoy doing this stuff, and I think if I had a better process, shop space with a little bit more tools in my arsenal, geared more toward this work, I'd probably be doing stuff like this more often, just because I'm touched in the head, and I can't keep my hands off of melting metal together for some reason. But it's a lot of work. I wouldn't just tell anybody, oh yeah, go build your own splitter. All you got to do is, because there is nothing all you got to do is about this. It's a lot of thought, a lot of learning from mistakes, things like that. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a lot of fun. I wish I could stay on it a little more. Wish it wasn't such a deviated availability of time for me to do this. But I really hope you guys are enjoying hanging out with me doing this stuff. Because it's kind of like an inside look at, how a business like this may look like in the very, very beginning. It's not all cookies and cream. So whenever you guys think about, guys like Andrew Easton and Chris Wolf and, the other guys up there, Brute Force, this is really how a lot of that stuff started, and they deserve a lot of respect. This is not for the faint of heart. So when you guys look at those beautiful pieces of equipment up there at the shows and things like that, this is how it used to be. This is how it all started with their businesses. So kudos to you guys out there who are manufacturing this stuff. It's pretty awesome. It's an accomplishment. So I will see you guys tomorrow evening. Here we are. It's actually a couple days later. I apologize for that. My intentions were to have this session actually uploaded for this morning and have it out here, but I I had to make an emergency visit to a friend of mine in the hospital, and he's also a subscriber. Him and I are best friends throughout middle school and high school, and we try to keep in touch as best we can still to this day. So you can see I'm kind of mocking all this up right now with some tack welds. Point being is I don't really have time to build an actual jig for something like this, or the desire to at this point. Not doing this stuff as often as somebody who would desire a jig to make this this process a lot quicker and easier. So I'm just kind of putting everything in place temporarily with some tacks, and I'm going to use the original holes that I drilled through the pusher plate, or I should say the slide plate, to base, whatever you want to call it. And use those as basically pilot holes to guide the drill bit down through, so that these pieces have accuracy, and when I put it together, hopefully it's all going to fit well. So let's get the drill press fired up, and we're going to go on over there, see how long my sharpening did the other night. I didn't get to catch that on camera because I had zero light over by the bench grinder. Today I stopped at Harbor Freight, got a few odds and ends, and one of those things was a new power strip for over there. So. So here's the test, right? So now this is obviously the diameter bolt. It's a grade 8. I think this is a 1 inch. I'm trying to remember. This is a 1/2 inch. I believe this is a 1/2 inch hole, and that's what we're going to use, the 1/2 inch bolt. We just need to get a bunch of these from Tractor Supply that are going to be the correct length. And there it is. Pin like Flynn. Enough room for the webs to be triangulated webs to hold the pusher plate. Room for those. And then in the middle, we'll have to mock that up on the H-beam along with the cylinder and the ram. So I guess what I'm going to be doing next is I'm going to be doing these triangulated webs here, the push plate, which I got all that material today. I'm going to get the push plate and those on next in the next video, and then we're going to start trying to figure out, you know, placement for that ram to couple to the back of this pusher plate. But before I can get too far ahead on that, we have to get that ram extended all the way out. That way I can get the pusher plate up against the splitting wedge. And also there's another thing that I'm doing to this pusher plate and the H-beam. They have very much to do with each other. There's another thing that I'm going to be doing. So that is also going to have to be in the next video. So I'm going to start out with whatever that is that I'm not going to tell you about. You're just going to have to wait. And it is going to be very specific to the MTR design. You've probably seen it other places, part of what I'm doing, but there's another caveat to it that I think is going to make it better. So you're just gonna have to wait. But yeah, that's what we got going on in the next video. We're gonna work about that thing that I'm talking about, and we're also gonna be getting this pusher plate, you know, fabbed up with, you know, all the other things that we gotta do to it. So if you guys enjoy the content you see here on the Mount Tammany Ridge channel, I really appreciate it. If you could just hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and almost more importantly, comment down below. Let me know how you guys are enjoying the content, if you are at all. Am I an idiot? Do I not know what I'm doing? Whatever it is, okay? Feel free to hit me up in the comments down below. Any questions, I'll answer them to the best of my ability. But as for now, this is the episode, and I'll get it to you sooner than later. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you on the next video.